Hello Isopod fans, this is Wally Kern with Supreme Isopods, bringing you another episode of the Isopod setup review. I'm really having a ton of fun with this. People are submitting their videos for me to review their Isopod setups, and it's just a blast. Other people watching these videos are learning a lot and commenting back to me. So we're going to keep this series going, and we have one coming up right now for you to watch.
The Isopod vlog.
I want to thank everybody once again for submitting their videos to me to do these reviews. I'm having a wonderful time doing it. The people that I do it for, the people submitting these videos, are learning a lot and they're making changes to their Isopod setups. The people watching these videos are giving me feedback saying that they're learning so much. I want to keep this series going. If you have an Isopod setup that you would like me to review, if you're having issues, even if you just want me to take a look at it and see what I think about it, if you're not getting babies from your Isopods, send me a 1-minute video, give or take a little bit, and let me know about your setup, how long you've had it going, what Isopods you're keeping in it, what you have the substrate made of. Show me the ventilation, show me the leaves, the decaying wood. Tell me what you're feeding the Isopods, and if I haven't said it already, tell me how long this Isopod setup has been in existence. And I'll take a look at the setup, and we'll do a video, and we'll give you feedback on maybe ways to improve your setup. And as a summary, I'll put together a real quick synopsis of maybe changes that you can make to the setup, and I'll indicate if it's red, orange, or yellow. Red meaning there's major issues, you're going to start losing Isopods. Orange meaning that you potentially will lose Isopods, and orange meaning you're not set up from an optimal standpoint to get babies from this setup. So let's get into the video today. And today's video is from Travis, and he's keeping Armadillidium maculatum zebras. Let's take a look at his setup.
So these guys here are going to be my Armadillium maculatum zebra culture. I have them in low humidity, and I only have my Armadillium species with vents on them because they like it a bit drier than most others.
Let's stop it right there. And again, Travis, thank you very, very much for submitting this. Again, these are zebras, Armadillidium maculatum zebras, and they do like it drier. They like a little bit less humidity. That doesn't mean that they don't need moisture in their enclosure. The setup that you're showing right here has a hole on the top. I don't see holes in the sides. I think maybe we'll see that later if there are. I would absolutely add more ventilation. Even though zebras like it a little bit drier, you absolutely have to have more ventilation in their enclosure. So I would add maybe a bigger hole on top, screen it off with some kind of a screening like chiffon or cheesecloth or something like that. And we'll see later if you have holes in the sides, but absolutely put a few holes on the sides for cross ventilation. Let's go ahead and take another look at the video.
And I got a bunch of leaf litter for food in there. I like to do my own substrate mix of topsoil, clay sand, a bunch of different mosses, and a few other things that I keep in food like foraged wood and a bit of leaf litter mixed in.
Let's stop it there. There's some really, really good points in here. Talking about I want to first mention before I get to the substrate that the sphagnum moss looks good. You have a good amount of it. Again, I say this every video, but it's hard for me to know for sure how much moisture you have in your sphagnum moss or the area below the sphagnum moss. You absolutely want 20 to 30% of your enclosure to be moist, not damp, not wet, but moist. And the rest of the area in your enclosure should be dry. Hard for me to tell if that's true here, but you can check it out and adjust accordingly. The substrate, you mix your own. I mixed my own too. I think there's some great substrates on the market right now for Isopods and millipedes. I just feel more comfortable knowing exactly what I have going into the substrate. And it's certainly, if you're going to keep more than 2 or 3 species of Isopods, for me especially, it's less expensive to go ahead and mix my own substrate. And the ingredients that you've added to the substrate sounds right on. You did mention sand, and I want to mention to you that the sand content, sand is usually used to help the substrates not compact as much. So just make sure that you don't have lots of sand in there. If I'm adding sand to a substrate, I'm adding maybe 5 or 10% of the substrate to be sand. Just a heads up there. Make sure that your substrate is around 2 to 3 inches. It's a little bit difficult to tell from this video, but if you can make it 2 to 3 inches, it'll allow the man-K to burrow in and feel comfortable in the substrate. Let's go ahead with the video.
In there, and we got some of these little guys over here. It's quite a small culture at the moment, but hopefully they'll start bouncing up soon.
Let's stop there. Let me just page down here. I really, really like that wood hide. I think it's just absolutely perfect. I just wanted to make a quick comment on that. Let's go ahead and get back into the video.
I just added pre-killed dubia roaches to all my bins today, so hopefully they'll be munching on that soon. And I think that about explains all of it there.
All right, Travis, thank you very much again for doing the submission. You had commented there that you're doing dubia roaches, and I'm not sure if you're adding live dubia roaches or if you're adding dead dubia roaches for more of a protein for their food or from their food. Not sure which way you're going. If you're adding live dubia roaches, I've never done it before. I'm just curious because I would consider the roaches to eventually, even if you're adding small dubia roaches, those dubia roaches probably will bother the zebras, and eventually, once they get a little bit bigger, the dubias, they'll probably start consuming the isopods. I would think. I haven't tried this before. I'm just speculating. Let's take a look at this enclosure from a summary standpoint. I would consider it orange. I don't think that you're going to start seeing immediate losses, but I do eventually think that you might start losing isopods, and that this is why we do these reviews, so that I can bring out comments that I feel might help and improve isopod setups. The reason I would make it orange is that the lack of ventilation. I really, really think that you need to add more ventilation, especially on the top. You need to add cross ventilation. These zebras really like a higher ventilation. They like it dry, and they want to have that drier environment, but they also want cross ventilation. And again, while it's hard for me to see if you have substantial moisture substrate and sphagnum moss, make sure that you have at least 20%, 20 to 30% of an area that's moist and maintains that moisture. Another area that I would be a little bit concerned about is your substrate depth. Make sure that you have at least 3 to 4 inches of substrate in this enclosure so that the isopods can burrow in and gain more moisture. Some minor points that you didn't mention, or I should say some points that you didn't mention, is food. Make sure that you're feeding a wide variety of foods, and especially for armadillidium, make sure you're feeding a good vegetable food. I like to use zucchini, pumpkins, and squash, some firmer vegetables. And absolutely make sure that you have some form of calcium in this enclosure. You can do eggshells, you can do calcium carbonate for human consumption. You can do cuttlebone. There's a lot of different options for you to use. I didn't see any calcium in here. It doesn't mean that you didn't add a pile of calcium somewhere, but just make sure that you do have the calcium in there. Thank you again, Travis, for submitting this video. I hope this was helpful. Isopod fans, if you enjoyed this content of these reviews, go ahead and hit the like button and thumbs up this video. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification all so you don't miss another one of these videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.